14 minutes earlier, images surfaced from Tehran displaying caskets covered in American flags with photographs of U.S. generals attached, including CENTCOM commander who negotiated with Iran 5 days prior. Pause. Examine these pictures carefully. Those aren't symbolic caskets. Those are mock coffins bearing specific names and photos of identified American military commanders. Breitbart documented 14 minutes earlier that Iranian demonstrations displayed caskets wrapped in U.S. flags featuring images of Vice Admiral Brad Cooper, CENTCOM commander General Randy George, U.S. Army Chief of Staff Colonel Curtis Rebase, Deputy Commander, 9th Air Force. Consider the scheduling. Cooper participated Oman negotiations February 6th. 5 days afterward, February 11th, Iran displays his photograph on mock casket at Tehran demonstration attended by hundreds of thousands. That's not random representation. That's targeted psychological combat, identifying specific individuals Iran threatens to eliminate. But wait, here's what makes this disastrous rather than merely provocative. The demonstration occurred as 47th anniversary commemoration of Islamic Revolution, when pro-government crowds traditionally number in thousands, not hundreds of thousands. Caliber.az validated 3 hours earlier this represents biggest pro-regime demonstration in recent Iranian history. Larger than 2009 Green Movement counter-protests, bigger than 2019 gasoline price demonstration reactions, surpassing even 2022 dress code protest government demonstrations, meaning Ayatollah Khamenei successfully activated massive popular involvement for anti-American demonstration. At precise moment, U.S. military strategists contemplate strikes against Iranian nuclear installations. Now, calculate what else materialized at demonstrations beyond caskets. Iranian ballistic missiles traveled through streets. Wreckage claimed to be destroyed Israeli drones from June 2025 war. Children repeating death to America on state television and American flags igniting everywhere in quantities indicating organized allocation rather than spontaneous protest. Israel Hayom documented 7 hours earlier that regime representatives positioned pile of caskets at a commemoration center in Tehran bearing names of senior U.S. military commanders, not concealed, not marginal. Central exhibition feature intended for maximum exposure. The communication Iran recognized specific American military leaders, knows their names, ranks, photos, assignments, and publicly threatens their deaths through casket representation broadcast internationally. But the warning extends beyond representation. Wikipedia recorded 11 hours earlier that Iranian state media announced are organizing graves at Tehran's Behesht Zara Cemetery for potential American casualties, physical graves being excavated for American bodies. Iran anticipates obtaining after confrontation commences. That organization means Iranian military strategists calculate casualties will include not just soldiers, but specific recognized commanders whose caskets materialized at demonstrations, senior officers, flag officers, theater commanders whose deaths would constitute strategic elimination of U.S. regional command framework, and Cooper's attendance in Oman negotiations 5 days before his casket materialized suggests Iranian intelligence monitors American officials' movements in real time. Knew Cooper participated discussions, recognized him as objective, organized mock casket, exhibited it publicly days after he departed region. That intelligence capacity frightens Pentagon strategists more than missile stockpiles or drone formations, because adversary, who knows where your commanders function, can objective them specifically rather than attacking forces broadly. The scheduling reveals coordination. Demonstration held February 11th precisely as Netanyahu visits Washington requesting Trump-authorized strikes. Iranian exhibitions displaying CENTCOM commanders' casket transmit communication. Authorize strikes and observe your theater commander perish. Press TV emphasized children participants repeating anti-American slogans. Breitbart recorded attendees photographing themselves beside casket exhibitions. Social media magnified images internationally within hours. The psychological influence objectives multiple audiences simultaneously. American military families observe commander photos on caskets. Pentagon strategists recognize intelligence breach exposing officer identities. Trump administration confronts domestic political ramifications from threatened officer deaths. An Iranian domestic audience obtains communication. Regime organized for war, recognized enemy commanders, activated population, exhibited military capabilities through missile exhibitions, generated infrastructure, graves at Behesht Zara for anticipated casualties. That multi-layered messaging represents sophisticated information combat beyond crude propaganda. Each component serves specific purpose, objectiving specific audience, accomplishing cumulative strategic outcome. The casket exhibitions will haunt American decision-making because personalization generates hesitation where abstract warnings might not. Observing CENTCOM commander's photograph on mock casket makes casualties concrete rather than theoretical. Military strategists must now calculate authorized strikes, knowing Iranian warnings, objective, specific recognized commanders by name and photograph, or hesitate because personalized death warnings generate unacceptable political ramifications if commanders actually perish during actions. Either way, Iran influences American decision-making through psychological combat, requiring nothing but accomplishing strategic outcomes, equivalent to military capabilities, demanding billions in development. Welcome to information combat, where casket exhibitions at demonstrations influence superpower military preparation more effectively than missile stockpiles, where photographs and names generate deterrence surpassing defensive capabilities, where 14-minute-old pictures from Tehran demonstrations modify strategic calculations in Washington war chambers. The casket exhibitions expose Iranian intelligence capabilities nobody discusses publicly, but every Pentagon strategist comprehends intimately. Systematic recognition of American command framework at operational threshold. Here's what the exhibitions exhibit. Iran knows CENTCOM commander's identity. Brad Cooper monitors his movements. Recognized Oman visit February 6th. Organized mock casket bearing his photograph. Exhibited it publicly, February 11th. That 5-day schedule means Iranian intelligence functions inside decision-making cycles. Real-time monitoring, rapid examination, immediate public exploitation for psychological outcome. Now, multiply that capacity across every casket exhibited. Randy George, Army Chief of Staff, Curtis Rebase, Air Force Deputy Commander. Each recognition demands intelligence gathering, verification, leadership consent, mock casket construction, demonstration coordination. The operational sophistication frightens Pentagon counterintelligence because it exposes systematic breach rather than isolated disclosures. Iranian intelligence didn't speculate which commanders to objective. They knew through breach of communications, observation of movements, or human sources supplying recognizing information and public exhibition of that intelligence. Through casket photographs transmits communication to American commanders. We know who you are, where you function, and how to locate you. Your identities aren't confidential. Your movements aren't protected. Your positions are objective. That messaging generates operational hesitation. Commanders function differently, knowing adversaries monitor them specifically, alter routines, expand security, restrict exposure, all degrading operational effectiveness even before combat commences. But February 11th, scheduling adds dimension beyond intelligence exhibition. Demonstration coincided with 47th Islamic Revolution anniversary. State-organized event regime manages completely, meaning casket exhibitions weren't spontaneous street performance. They represent deliberate government policy approved at highest thresholds. Ayatollah Khamenei authorized those exhibitions. Supreme Leader personally approved displaying American commanders' caskets at anniversary commemoration. That choice signals regime dedication to confrontation, transcending tactical provocation. Israel Hayom documented regime-threatened government employees and welfare recipients with income reductions unless they participated demonstrations, coerced involvement to inflate crowd quantities, yet even accounting for coercion, hundreds of thousands participated, generating visual spectacle indicating popular assistance for confrontation. American media broadcasts pictures of massive crowds surrounding caskets bearing U.S. commanders' photographs. Domestic audiences observe Iranian population activated for war. That perception influences American political calculations. Presidents hesitate authorizing strikes when adversary exhibits popular assistance for resistance. Risk evaluation transforms when enemy population appears unified rather than divided. And children repeating death to America on state television adds generational dimension. Future Iranian adults being socialized to perceive America as enemy deserving elimination, long-term strategic placement beyond immediate emergency. The missile exhibitions at demonstrations generate additional layer. Iranian ballistic missiles traveling through Tehran streets, military hardware presentation displaying strike capabilities, wreckage claimed to be destroyed Israeli drones. Each component reinforces communication. Iran organized militarily possesses strike capabilities, exhibited effectiveness against Israeli arrangements, prepared to employ missiles against American objectives if confrontation intensifies. Wikipedia recorded state media organizing graves at Behesht Zahra Cemetery for potential American casualties. Physical infrastructure supporting casket representation, graves being excavated, cemetery space designated, burial procedures established. That organization suggests Iranian strategists calculate specific casualty quantities. Don't excavate graves randomly. Estimate deaths. Designate space accordingly. Organize infrastructure handling anticipated bodies. The graves organization exposes confidence rather than uncertainty. Iran anticipates obtaining American bodies, expects to retain them, plans burial on Iranian territory, won't repatriate remains to families. That warning holding American bodies permanently generates political influence exponentially worse than combat deaths returned honorably, families unable to bury loved ones, remains exhibited as trophies, graves becoming pilgrimage locations for anti-American propaganda. And Cooper's specific objectiving carries symbolic weight beyond other commanders. CENTCOM oversees Middle Eastern actions. Theater commander whose death would eliminate regional command framework during active confrontation. Eliminating CENTCOM commander mid-war generates operational chaos, chain of command disruption, decision-making delays, temporary paralysis, while replacement assumes authority and reconstructs situational awareness. Iranian military strategists comprehend this. That's why Cooper's casket materialized prominently. Priority objective, strategic goal, commander whose death accomplishes outcomes beyond individual casualty. The 14-minute-old Breitbart documentation means pictures circulating internationally. Now, American military families searching commander names, discovering photographs on caskets, reading warnings, experiencing fear Iranian psychological combat deliberately generates. That family influence translates to political influence. Spouses contacting senators, parents reaching media, veterans groups requesting protection, all generating domestic constituency opposed to actions risking commanders' deaths. And Netanyahu arrives. Washington today requesting Trump authorized strikes, knowing Iranian casket exhibitions just raised political expenses enormously, knowing families will oppose actions, knowing Trump must calculate domestic ramifications alongside military goals. The casket exhibitions shifted negotiating advantage hours before critical conference. Iran exhibited capabilities, activated population, personalized warnings, organized infrastructure, all accomplished through symbolic exhibitions requiring trivial amounts, but generating strategic outcomes worth billions. Today's Netanyahu-Trump conference occurs 14 minutes after casket photographs surface displaying CENTCOM commander objectived by name and image at Iranian demonstration, attended by hundreds of thousands. Before casket exhibitions, Netanyahu could request Trump-authorized strikes, arguing Iranian warnings remain abstract rather than specific. After 14-minute-old photographs, Netanyahu must clarify how American commanders function, knowing Iran publicly threatened their deaths through personalized casket exhibitions broadcast internationally. That briefing transforms everything. Cannot dismiss warnings as propaganda when adversary recognizes specific officers by name and photograph. Cannot ignore intelligence implications when enemy exhibits real-time monitoring of commander movements. Cannot minimize domestic politics when military families observe loved ones' caskets at Iranian demonstrations. And Trump confronts that influence today. Israeli Prime Minister requesting authorization. American commander families observing casket photographs. Pentagon intelligence investigating how Iran recognized officers. All while oil markets price in confrontation nobody can prevent. The 85% American opposition to Iran strikes recorded in recent polling gains. Concrete imagery through casket exhibitions. Survey respondents now observe what war means. Commander deaths, bodies retained, graves organized in Tehran, families unable to bury remains. That visualization transforms abstract opposition into visceral rejection. Poll quantities translate to political movement when pictures make ramifications concrete. Alibi asked Americans directly, "Is Netanyahu managing your country or are you?" That inquiry resonates differently when Israeli requests risk. American commanders' deaths threatened explicitly through casket exhibitions hours before White House conference. The caskets bearing CENTCOM commanders photograph reply that inquiry visually. Netanyahu advocates actions. Iranian caskets display American casualties. Connection becomes unavoidable even to casual observers. And Ayatollah's achievement, activating hundreds of thousands, contradicts American intelligence evaluations, indicating regime vulnerability. If government collapsed internally, couldn't organize massive pro-regime demonstrations, couldn't coordinate casket exhibitions, couldn't activate population, but February 11th proved regime retains organizational capacity, manages enough population, commands sufficient loyalty, sustains propaganda effectiveness, generating turnout surpassing anti-government protests. That exhibition invalidates intervention assumptions. Can't depend on popular uprising if hundreds of thousands participate pro-government demonstrations. Can't anticipate rapid collapse when regime successfully activates population for confrontation. The Israel's finance minister announcing either Iran eliminated or we eliminated reflects desperation rather than confidence. When official rhetoric achieves existential presentation, one of us must perish. It signals recognition that military choices carry disastrous risks. The casket exhibitions made those risks explicit. Commanders will perish. Bodies will be retained. Graves organized in Tehran cemetery already designated for American casualties. Families will suffer. Political ramifications will follow. Trump must determine today whether authorizing actions warrants those specific anticipated ramifications made concrete through casket photographs from 14 minutes earlier. And Iranian graves organization at Behesht Zahra Cemetery adds permanent dimension. Caskets were temporary demonstration exhibitions. Graves represent lasting infrastructure. Cemetery space designated. Burial plots, designated markers potentially organized. That permanent signals Iranian dedication transcending immediate emergency. They're not organizing for possibility. They're organizing for certainty. Anticipate American deaths, designated cemetery space, established burial procedures. Markets will react next week once examination spreads. Defense stocks surge on anticipated confrontation. Oil futures rise on Strait of Hormuz closure risks. Dollar weakens on strategic uncertainty. Insurance rates expand on Persian Gulf transportation. All because casket photographs from 14 minutes earlier crystallized previously abstract warnings into concrete personalized dangers that American military families, political constituencies, and market participants cannot ignore. The February 11th demonstration exhibiting CENTCOM Commander casket 5 days after Oman negotiations represents inflection moment where Iranian psychological combat accomplished strategic outcomes surpassing military capabilities. One demonstration, caskets requiring trivial amounts. Photographs of American commanders, hundreds of thousands activated, broadcast internationally, political influence generated, military hesitation generated, market instability triggered, all accomplished through information combat, demanding minimal resources but accomplishing maximum strategic influence. Welcome to Confrontation, where 14-minute-old photographs from Tehran demonstration modify superpower decision-making in Washington war chambers, where casket exhibitions influence military actions more effectively than missile stockpiles, where psychological combat defeats technological superiority through personalization, making casualties concrete rather than theoretical. Brad Cooper negotiated in Oman February 6th. His casket materialized at Tehran demonstration February 11th. Netanyahu requests strikes today. Trump confronts impossible selection. American families observe commander photographs on Iranian caskets. Markets price in confrontation. And 14-minute-old pictures document the instance information combat accomplished strategic outcomes military force cannot counter. This is how modern combat functions, not through battlefield victories, but through psychological actions broadcast internationally, generating political influences that paralyze decision-making before combat even commences. Iran won this round. Caskets prove it. And 14 minutes earlier, the world observed evidence. I'm Dav from 3 Daily News.